Welcome back to another week inside my dungeon lair. I promise one day I will put up the green screen behind me, but today's not that day, so enjoy my face and the air conditioning vents behind me. We got a big weekend this week. I got a lot to talk about, but before that, I just want to say that next week I will not be in my dungeon lair. Actually, I will be over in New Mexico, so unfortunately I will not be here for the Minions opening weekend. I know how devastating. It's going to do 2 billion opening weekend, 400 million domestic, record shattering weekend, and I'm not going to be here for it. So I'll try to throw up a video on my phone or something, but unfortunately we will not be in the dungeon next week. So take a good look at it. Alright, so let's get into this weekend's box office. This is the weekend charted June 24th, 2022. And in the number one spot, we have Elvis with a $31.2 million opening weekend. This is about what the projections were looking at, about a $30 million weekend. This is Warner Brother distributed, so it will be coming to HBO Max in 45 days. In the number two spot, we have Top Gun Maverick with $29.6 million in its fifth week. And if you were paying attention to the estimates, actually Top Gun Maverick was estimated to be number one, but Elvis was just able to beat it out by less than $2 million. And the estimates were just completely off this week because the Black Phone was estimated to be number 3, but Jurassic World Dominion was able to scoot by it just barely. If you actually look at these numbers, they're extremely close to each other. These 2, 3, 4 spaces are just within $3 million of each other. 1 and 2 are within $2 million of each other. And Lightyear is only $5 million behind the Black Phone. So really close weekend. And what's crazy is we have 4 movies making over $20 million and not a single one is a superhero movie. Look, I'm not going to be here and shitting on the superhero genre movie. I'm going to go see Thor in 2 weeks just like the rest of this nation. But it's just really nice to see that, people are going to other movies. And what's really cool too is the diversity in these movies. You got a horror movie, you got a kids animated movie, you got a big summer blockbuster, you got Top Gun, another summer big blockbuster, you got a music biopic and Elvis. I mean, really, anything you could want to go see this weekend, it's out there for you. And speaking of musician biopics, here's a list. I got the highest opening weekend biopics based on musicians. And number 1, you got Straight Outta Compton with $60.2 million. And I gotta be completely honest, I wasn't paying attention to box office back in the fall of 2015, and I was not expecting this to be number 1. I mean, I thought for sure Bohemian Rhapsody would be number 1. But Bohemian Rhapsody comes in the number 2 spot with a $51 million opening weekend. Bohemian Rhapsody was actually the last Fox movie without Disney that was like a real big hit, and obviously Disney got some of that money because, the deal went through just a couple months later, but it's nice to see Fox kind of went out on a high note. And then you got Elvis in the number 3 spot with a $31.2 million opening weekend. To be honest, you can go back and watch my summer prediction video. Thought for sure Rocket Man would beat out Elvis. I really thought Elton John had a way bigger draw than Elvis, but no, Elvis was able to beat him out. So, Elvis in the number 3 spot. Then you got Rocket Man in number 4 with a $25 million opening weekend. And then all the way back in 2005, you got Walk the Line in our 5th spot with a $22 million opening weekend. I actually didn't have time to adjust for inflation, but I bet if I did, that would have been at least number 3. And I added something on this. You can see that I added the percentage of what their opening weekend was to their total gross. So, Straight Outta Compton's opening weekend was only 37.3% of its initial gross. So I actually ended up adding all these numbers together and getting the average of what the legs are for these biopic movies. And if Elvis follows the average legs of these musician biopic movies, then it's looking at a $125 million total gross. And this would only be 25% of its opening weekend. Do I think it's going to make there? No, but I really think it's going to blow past $100 million. I think it could make $110 million. It'll be interesting to see how the movie drops after this, but I believe that the audience going to this movie would be an older skewing audience, so it could potentially have pretty good legs. So maybe that 125 is in rain. Either way, really happy to see a nice turnout for Elvis. So here I have pulled up movies directed by Baz Luhrmann, and The Great Gatsby is actually still his biggest opening weekend with $50 million. It's pretty much completely certain that it'll end up his second highest grossing domestic movie. Moulin Rouge is only at 57, so it's only got to make 26 million and it'll be past it. Will it pass The Great Gatsby though? I gotta be honest, I don't think so. I mean, it would have to have some pretty incredible legs. Past average, as I was saying. We know 125 is what the average legs are, so it would have to do even better than the average musical biopic. I don't know. I'm gonna go under 144 right now, but you know, maybe next weekend I'll be completely changing my tune. That's the fun part of the box office. You never fucking know. This is a list of the biggest fifth weekends of all time in the domestic box office. Top Gun Maverick at the number 3 spot. I know it says 4, but American Sniper does not count. The first 3 weeks that it was open, it was only making like $1,000. It opened big in week number 4, so we're not counting American Sniper. And like I said last week, this is higher than Black Panther, Force Awakens, Spider-Man No Way Home, The Avengers, Frozen. These are the biggest movies of the 2010s. And Top Gun Maverick has had a bigger fifth weekend than any of them. I know this is a crazy comparison, and I'm not saying that Top Gun is going to make as much as Avatar, but look at this graph right here. They're looking pretty damn similar. In the end of the day, I do think Top Gun is going to make less than Avatar, but this is something to be noted. Top Gun is having an iconic run, one for the years, one for the decades, one that will not be forgotten soon. So do you guys think they're going to announce Top Gun 3 then? This is the highest weekend 1 to weekend 2 drop-offs for a Pixar movie. You got Onward with a minus 73%, only making $10 million in its second weekend. Look, the second weekend of Onward's release was the COVID-19, the beginning of the pandemic. That doesn't really count. All of Onward's domestic run really doesn't count. But you can't erase the number, so that's still the number 1. In our hearts, we know that the real number 1 spot is Lightyear with a minus 65% drop. It actually only made barely over what The Good Dinosaur made in its second weekend. The Good Dinosaur dropped 61%, making $15 million, so only less than $3 million difference between these two movies' second weekend. The Good Dinosaur is probably the most forgettable Disney movie. I've never seen it. I know, I keep saying I've never seen any of these movies. How are you going to judge my opinion on anything? I've never seen The Good Dinosaur. I've never seen Lightyear. You know what? Maybe there's a correlation there. But it's just amazing to see Pixar's in their probably top 5 most iconic character would have to be Buzz. I would honestly say potentially Buzz and Woody are both in their top 5 most iconic characters, at least to me. So seeing one of their most iconic characters barely make any more money than The Good Dinosaur, I mean, that is truly shocking to me. In number 4, you have Cars 2 with a 60% drop. Cars 2 made $8 million more than Lightyear did in its second weekend. Granted, the Pixar brand may have been a little different back then. I remember Cars 2 was the first Pixar movie people were like, yo, this is bad. But it still made $26 million. And then you got The Incredibles 2 in the number 5 spot with a minus 56% drop. Last week when Lightyear opened, I made the comparison to Cars 3, saying I thought it was going to follow its domestic run pretty closely. You can see Cars 3 in blue and Lightyear in red. It is following it pretty closely, but it's actually fallen behind. It's looking like Lightyear isn't even going to cross 140 million domestic. To put that in perspective, Toy Story 4 made 127 million its opening weekend. So potentially Lightyear's barely gonna make more than what Toy Story 4 did in just its opening weekend. Alright, so just going over the rest of the weekend box office, Doctor Strange made an additional 1.7 million. Look, in week number 8, it's on Disney Plus. That ain't half bad. I've been talking about if it was gonna pass Captain America Civil War the last couple weeks, and it actually did. Civil War's final gross was 408 million, and this is currently at 409 million. So, here's a list of the highest grossing MCU movies domestically, and you can see that Doctor Strange has now passed it. Man, it is crazy. You kind of forget how huge Captain Marvel was right there in between Infinity War and Endgame. It was able to make $426 million domestically. Doctor Strange is not going to make that much, so it's going to end up in the number 8 spot in the MCU's catalog. Yeah, and a lot of people said that this movie was a flop. Just remember that. Looking at the top 10 highest grossing movies of the summer, and you can see I only have 2 movies in the same position that they actually are in. Elvis opening up to be able to pass Bob's Burgers movies. Look at that. I put Elvis and Bob's Burgers movies right next to each other, and here they are right next to each other in real life. Unfortunately, Elvis is going to blow the cakes off of Bob's Burgers. I don't know what I was thinking with Bob's Burgers. I fucking hate that movie forever now. And that's going to do it for this week. Thank you for watching. As you can see, I'm starting to throw more graphics into the show. I'm trying to put more time into it. So please leave your comments on any suggestions that you have. Said it in the beginning of the show, but next week's going to be a little bit different. I'm probably going to record a video on my phone talking about Minions' $10 billion opening weekend. So expect that. And I will be also making Hot 100 videos whenever I figure out how to do that. I'm trying to figure out the format of how I want to really go over it. But besides that, please leave a like, please leave a comment, and have a great rest of your week.